Sup, schizos? Somewhere in between my 10th monster trying to make sense of a Navier-Stokes equation so I could build the Death Star of David, my vision suddenly blurred, and in a moment of joy, I thought my heart was finally giving out and I could finally meet Jesus. Unfortunately, it was just the CIA being eagle bullshit into my brain. So after I woke up in a stolen car with a video on my channel I didn't recognize, I decided to close the Asian Find Shite folder and return to my roots of getting chubbed up to artillery and planes. WARNO was fun for the soundtrack and cutscenes, but it's made by the French, so I went to go play Broken Arrow. Broken Arrow is not only a Pong Krell casualty simulator when I play it, but also a well-polished RTS. Chocked full of a campaign, 5v5 multiplayer matches, and AI battles for those of us without friends, or a wife and kids. The game takes place in the Baltic Theater, and if I'm being honest, I don't know which Baltic state is the best, and am open to your most nationalistic arguments. I'm sure the comment section will remain respectful and well-informed. In the Baltic Theater, we have two sides to choose from, the United States and Russia. You'll notice that several European powers are missing. This is because Europe is full of pussies that would rather mooch off the USA's defense budget to pay for crappy healthcare instead of devoting the amount of GDP they said they would when they joined NATO. Except the Czech Republic, Finland, and Poland. I love you three, and you all get a pass. Now then, on to the units you'll be sending to their death from your comfy chair at home. Since I am a propagandized warhawk, I will only be reviewing the American side. To the left of the screen are where you'll place your units in the Ender tab. Reconnaissance is to see shit so you don't start using human wave tactics. Infantry is to put cheaper weaponry on the map to capture point and attempt to defeat other infantry and vehicles. Vehicles are for turning infantry into closed caskets. Support is for setting up supply depots and anti-air emplacements. Helicopters are for quick movement to get troops around quickly, or quickly take out armored brigades. And finally, aircraft, to kill everything while giving STEM majors a reason not to kill themselves. When making a deck, you'll be selecting from 2 of 5 regiments. The crayon-munching Marines with a bit of everything. The armored brigade that fills up my portfolio. The airborne infantry for downing Russian junk and putting your troops way over there quickly. The striker regiment for clicking to quickly maneuver out of fire instead of sitting down like a lard.
I think they can stop me with their stinky infantry.
And finally, Spec Ops, for DARPA fans to foam at the mouth over. Race mix between the 2 brigades to win in urban, wet, and forest maps. This next section is a generalization and not reflective of any competent strategy. This is simply what I know so far after being screamed at by foreigners on how to play the game. Infantry, while cheap, is hard to haul around without vehicles, and works best when undetected, and set up as an ambush with urban or forest environments for cover. Hiding vehicles and choke points for quick getaways is essential for avoiding girls on Panzer fans. Armored vehicles and tanks are for pushing infantry without rocket launchers, as well as occasionally being close anti-air. Artillery is for shelling men with loving families from the comfort of your backline. Patriot missile systems are for bullying aviation nerds who think they can get away with aircraft spam. Helicopters are for outranging and killing tanks and infantry, while planes are for killing anything they feel like. There's 3 general ways to play this game. The campaign to learn the game. Scenarios to create friendships, and PvP to end those friendships. I'm gonna cover them all because I want a long video. Scenarios are player versus AI, with up to 5 entities on each team. Generally, a good way to play if you want to ensure you have a fun match with your friends. It is also a fantastic way to learn communication and test out new decks for what's coming. The campaign itself has a learning curve that shows me how bad I am at everything concerning RTS games. Spoilers for American side, here's a timestamp. So, Miller Silverstein arrives from definitely not Boeing, fresh from $1 billion insurance plan for Drone 7 6 weeks earlier. Miller pays a visit to the general to argue whether the F-15 is better at air-to-ground firepower than the A-10. Drone 7 is then taken out by a missile while Russia claims it was in their airspace. A suspiciously happy Miller is then put on a task force. NATO provides aid, while an alleged Russian caravan with aid opens fire. Everyone fights over who's behind the false flag, and the Baltics become a slightly less fun place to live. As in, instead of poor people shooting each other, it's poor people of different ethnicities with superpower-backed weapons still shooting each other. The Balkans have been upgraded from drug shankers to tank battalions with anime girl lockets. Anyways, a tank battalion of leopards gets bombed, and Germany backs out of supporting the US because that's all they had. The USA is once again on its own, so Germany can get back to cheating a missions test. A prominent Russian general gets assassinated, somehow not by Putin this time, as the endgame draws near. Miller and the general argue about acceptable losses when we all know it's however much gets the job done. The final showdown happens, and Miller wants to use the N-word to nuke a dam to prevent Russian mass invasion. The general argues we can save civilian lives by taking strategic points and fight the Russians off. And what a righteous and selfless plan the general has to protect the innocent by putting European lives first. However, look how cool this is. Nuclear! PvP. PvP is when the game goes from fun to Mario Kart Blue Shell levels of hatred for your fellow man. Pray to God you can find friends who both can know what they are doing and are relatively understanding, because the amount of shit you will take from the unemployed for not microing 3 separate points while everyone else floats points is wild. Provided you aren't hacked by the Chinese, the devs claim aren't a bigger problem than everyone else. I recommend typing anti-CCP propaganda like mentioning 3 tanks incident or playing skirmish instead. That being said, when PvP works, it really fucking works, provided everyone on your team knows their roles and how to counter.
And Mr. President, there's civilians there, but I bombed the hospital anyway.
The air attacks is something that originated in the meta for this game due to the sheer explosion of aviation autism online edits spawned. Thank you, Index. For some reason, everyone will spam aircraft at the beginning of a match. Counter this, take all your Patriot missile systems and immediately set the radar to on for an instant surplus of stolen enemy points. I don't do this out of the goodness of my heart. I do it to make the Russian cocksucking experience worse for the Serbians. The other aspect of PvP essential to know is making your infantry as anti-vehicle as possible, as vehicles are generally the most diverse in the game for any needed mission. However, if you do not set up good anti-air and make the mistake of grouping up, prepare your Geiger counter, because they're going to use the N-word on you. Although, if your vehicles are under fire, pray you find cover while smoking to avoid shells and rockets. The beginning of a match is crucial as it determines who will have the point advantage, because maintaining a point by hiding a single unit in it is a lot easier than fighting the 7 armies of hell, just to tie the game last second. Scoring points comes from maintaining captures of different areas, and the longer the game goes, the bigger the score at the end of the 3 rounds is. So even if you lost everything, there is always an opportunity to gain it all back. That psych ward girly put you through a lot. You deserve some White Monster and L3 hair stocks to cope. Sorry, Boeing Spook. The Lockheed Grumman portfolio gets the PSYOP. In conclusion, this game is fun. I hate it. It gets a score I can only see by saying an activation phrase. More content to follow, hopefully in a faster manner. If you'd like to support me, here's some links. And as always, support unlicensed gynecology.